My mother-in-law, Dolores, stood over the trash can holding my daughter's unicorn birthday cake like it was garbage. The 3 layers of vanilla cake I had stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning decorating rainbow mane golden horn pink hooves were seconds away from being destroyed. She doesn't deserve a celebration, she announced. The room froze. Children stopped singing mid-song. My mother-in-law, Dolores, stood over the trash can holding my daughter's unicorn birthday cake like it was garbage. The 3 layers of vanilla cake I had stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning decorating rainbow mane golden horn pink hooves were seconds away from being destroyed. She doesn't deserve a celebration, she announced. The room froze. That moment summed up everything about Dolores. At 62, retired and controlling, she had opinions on everything from how many vegetables should be on my daughter's plate to how I folded laundry. She believed children should be seen, not heard, and certainly never celebrated unless they met her impossible standards. Craig, gentle and conflict-averse, never stood up to her. He apologized when strangers bumped into him, so standing up to his mother seemed beyond him. For years I had swallowed her insults, kept the peace, and tried to protect Rosalie from her harshness. But this birthday was supposed to be different. It was supposed to be a simple afternoon, 3 classmates and their parents' butterfly decorations and a homemade cake. Instead, Dolores turned it into a spectacle of cruelty. What she didn't know was that Rosalie had been preparing her own plan. For weeks, she worked in secret on a school project using her tablet. Craig and I assumed it was creative writing or some game, but we were wrong. That day, as Dolores stood smugly after tossing the cake away, Rosalie's tears suddenly stopped. She wiped her face, lifted her chin, and smiled. It was the mischievous smile she usually wore when she checkmated Craig in chess. Then she said clearly, "Grandma, I made you a special video. Want to see it?" The morning had started so differently. Rosalie had bounced into our bedroom at 6 o'clock a.m., wearing her favorite purple dress with silver stars, holding her tablet to her chest. "Do you think Grandma will like my surprise?" she asked. I smiled, though doubt weighed on me. Dolores rarely liked anything we did. Still, Rosalie's excitement was contagious. We had strung paper butterflies across the ceiling, and when the afternoon light hit, shadows danced across the walls. I had set the table with my grandmother's lace cloth and thrifted plates, imperfect but beautiful. Even our old dog Biscuit wore a birthday bandana. Craig carried in ice from the garage, already resigned. "She'll find something wrong," he muttered. "Today isn't about her," I replied. How wrong I was. Dolores arrived exactly at 2 o'clock p.m., with no gift, no card, and that familiar scowl. She surveyed the decorations like a health inspector ready to fail us. "All this for a 7-year-old excessive," she declared. When Craig weakly reminded her it was a birthday, she sneered, "You're raising an entitled princess." Rosalie heard every word, yet still placed a hand-decorated party hat labeled "World's Best Grandma" at Dolores's spot. That was my daughter, hopeful, kind, always willing to try. The guests arrived with their children, laughter filling the house. But Dolores poisoned every moment. Tablets were ruining children's brains. Cupcakes were sugar poison. Musical chairs was promoting aggression. Even when the kids played pin the horn on the unicorn, she sneered about delusions. I asked Craig to intervene, but he avoided my eyes. "She's just being herself," he whispered. My anger simmered. Finally, I brought out the cake. Candles glowed. Rosalie closed her eyes, ready to wish. Then Dolores cut through the song. "Stop this nonsense." She got a C on her spelling test, and she's rewarded with this spectacle. Before anyone could react, Dolores seized the cake and dumped it into the trash. Rosalie's lips trembled, but then her expression shifted. She wiped her tears, smiled faintly, and approached her tablet. "I made something for you, Grandma. It's about you. Everyone should see." Dolores smirked, intrigued. Well, at least someone appreciates honoring their elders. Rosalie connected the tablet to the TV, her crown crooked, but her stance proud. She slipped her small hand into mine, squeezed 3 times our code for "I love you," and pressed play. The cheerful opening tune of a children's program filled the room. Words appeared, "The Important Women in My Life" by Rosalie Mitchell. Dolores sat straighter, smug. But the first video clip shattered her composure. A date stamp from Thanksgiving appeared, and Dolores's voice played clearly. "That child is manipulative like her mother. She cries for attention. Pathetic." In the background, Rosalie's reflection was visible, curled up on the couch, crying silently. Dolores went pale. "How did you get this?" she demanded, but the next clip rolled Christmas morning, her voice on FaceTime, Craig married beneath him. "Bethany can't cook, can't keep house, raising a spoiled brat." Parents gasped. Craig's face crumpled as though struck. Clip after clip revealed Dolores's venom, mocking Rosalie's school performance, insulting her weight, plotting to push Craig toward divorce. Then came the final recording from 2 weeks earlier. Dolores's voice was calm, deliberate. "I'm thinking of telling Craig to file for divorce, while Rosalie is still young enough to forget Bethany. Bad breeding always shows. Maybe if Craig remarries, the next child will have a chance." Gasps filled the room. Craig's hands shook. My chest burned. The video ended with Rosalie on camera speaking softly but firmly. "My grandma Dolores taught me that words can hurt worse than falling off my bike. She taught me bullies can be family. But she also taught me to stand up for myself and my mommy. Evidence is important when people lie about being nice." The dedication appeared to all kids with relatives who pretend to love them, but don't. "You're not alone." The screen went black. Silence swallowed the room. Dolores's face shifted from pale to furious red. She clutched her purse like a weapon. "This is an invasion of privacy. This is illegal. Craig, your daughter invaded my privacy, and you're going to let her get away with this." For the first time in 9 years of marriage, Craig's voice rang out with strength. "My daughter," he said firmly, "just showed me what a coward I've been. Mom, you threw her birthday cake in the trash. You've been poisoning our family for years, and I let it happen." His words carried a weight that silenced even Dolores. "You're taking their side?" she screeched, standing so fast she knocked over a glass of water. "After everything I've done for you." "What have you done?" Craig demanded, his voice breaking with anger. "What I saw on that screen was you systematically destroying my daughter's confidence and my wife's spirit. You called Rosalie manipulative, said she had bad genes, even talked about taking her away from her mother." "What kind of grandmother does that?" Dolores turned to the other parents for support. "This is a setup. They coached her to humiliate me." Indigo's mom stepped forward, her voice sharp. "No one could coach the pain we just saw. That was real. We all saw a little girl crying because of your words." Rosalie's small voice joined in, steady and calm. "By saying I'll never amount to anything by telling Daddy to leave," Mommy Dolores sputtered, but had no answer. She grabbed her purse and stormed to the door. "You'll regret this. I'll tell everyone what kind of child you're raising." "Good," I finally said, my own voice firm. "Tell them about the 7-year-old who stood up to a bully. Tell them about the little girl who was brave enough to show the truth. I'm sure that story will go exactly how you want it to." Dolores slammed the door so hard, 3 paper butterflies drifted from the ceiling. The silence that followed felt heavy, then suddenly lightened as Indigo began clapping. One by one, parents and children joined until the living room filled with applause. Rosalie bowed, her crooked crown finally tumbling off her head. Waverly's mom came over, her face full of compassion. "Mrs. Mitchell, I actually brought an extra cake in my car. I always keep a backup. Would you like me to get it?" Minutes later, a store-bought chocolate cake sat in the center of our table. When we sang Happy Birthday again, the voices were twice as loud. Craig held my hand the whole time, squeezing it as if apologizing for years of silence. Rosalie blew out the candles, cheeks glowing, and smiled as everyone cheered. That night, after the guests had gone, I found Rosalie in her room, writing in her journal. She showed me the entry. Today, I turned 7. Grandma threw my cake away, but I got something better. Daddy finally stood up for us. Best birthday ever. My eyes blurred with tears. Then she showed me the last line. P.S. Mrs. Chen didn't really assign that project. But she did say to document bullying whenever I see it. I think I did it pretty good. I pulled her into my arms. Sweetheart, you were brave. You showed the truth. How long have you been recording, Grandma? I asked gently. Since Christmas, she admitted. When she made you cry in the bathroom. I heard you, Mommy. That's when I started keeping evidence. My heart broke and swelled at once. This little girl had carried the burden of protecting us in her small hands, and she had done it with a courage most adults never find. In the weeks that followed, Dolores sent one letter through a lawyer claiming her privacy had been violated. My sister Nain's husband, a lawyer himself, laughed when we showed him. Oregon is a one-party consent state, he explained. Rosalie was part of every conversation. Perfectly legal. Dolores's threats fizzled out, replaced only by silence. Craig began going to therapy every Thursday at 4:00 p.m. He started learning how to use his voice. He even told his boss he wouldn't work weekends anymore. My daughter is growing up fast, he said. I won't miss it. For the first time, I saw him as more than gentle, I saw him as strong. Rosalie, too, grew in her own way. She started a kindness club at school, teaching other kids how to document acts of kindness instead of cruelty. Her teacher praised her for turning a painful lesson into something hopeful. She even got a real A+ for her presentation on standing up to bullies, even when they're family. Months later, the story of the unicorn cake spread quietly through our neighborhood. Other moms whispered encouragement at the grocery store. Good for you, one said. Good for her. But the best moment came when Rosalie asked me one evening, Mommy, do you think I was mean to Grandma? I looked at her earnest eyes. No, sweetheart. You showed the truth. That's not mean. That's brave. She nodded, thoughtful. Maybe someday Grandma will say sorry and we can try again. That was my daughter. Even after everything, her heart stayed open to love, redemption, and the possibility of change. 6 months had passed since that unforgettable birthday, and though Dolores had vanished from our daily lives, the echoes of her cruelty lingered. Sometimes I caught myself scanning the mailbox, half expecting another venomous letter or some attempt at contact. But aside from that single legal threat, she remained silent. Part of me was relieved. Another part, the foolishly hopeful part, still wondered if she'd one day call to apologize. Rosalie, ever forgiving, asked occasionally, Do you think Grandma misses us? I could only answer with honesty. I don't know, sweetheart. But missing someone and treating them kindly are not the same. Our household felt lighter without Dolores's constant shadow. Craig came home from therapy each Thursday evening at 5:00 p.m., carrying a new calm determination. He had begun to recognize the years he'd spent shrinking beneath his mother's judgment. One evening, sitting at the dinner table with Rosalie coloring beside him, he confessed, I thought being gentle meant avoiding fights. But all it did was let Mom keep hurting you both. His voice cracked, but he continued. I don't want Rosalie growing up thinking her dad won't protect her. That changes now. It wasn't just words. Small moments showed the difference. He told his boss firmly he wouldn't sacrifice weekends for endless deadlines. He spoke up at PTA meetings instead of lurking silently in the back. He even confronted a neighbor who had scolded Rosalie for chalk drawings on the sidewalk, calmly but firmly defending her right to be a child. Each time, Rosalie's eyes lit up, seeing her father become the protector she had longed for. Rosalie herself carried the bravery of that day like a badge. At school, she started the Kindness Club, an idea she came up with after telling me, "If Grandma can teach lessons with cruelty, then I can teach lessons with kindness." Every week, her classmates wrote down acts of kindness they had observed: someone sharing crayons, someone helping another up after a fall. Rosalie proudly compiled these into little evidence journals. Her teacher praised her leadership and even invited her to present to the whole class. "Kindness spreads," Rosalie explained during her talk. "And sometimes you need evidence to remind people it's real." The parents who had witnessed Dolores's outburst still talked about Rosalie with admiration. At pickup, Waverly's mom squeezed my hand once and whispered, "Your daughter reminded all of us what courage looks like." Still, healing was not immediate. Some nights, Rosalie's sleep was restless, and she'd wander into our room clutching her unicorn plush. "Mommy," she whispered once, "why did Grandma hate me so much?" The question pierced me. I gathered her into my arms and said, "She doesn't hate you. She hates things in herself she never fixed, and she took them out on you. That's not your fault." Rosalie nodded, but I could see the doubt flicker in her eyes. Trauma, even for a child, leaves shadows. One Sunday morning, Craig suggested we bake a new unicorn cake. "Let's make it a family thing," he said. So we did. Rosalie measured flour with exaggerated seriousness. I piped frosting, while she giggled, and Craig, always the perfectionist, carefully arranged sprinkles. When we finally cut into it, Rosalie clapped. "This one's better than the first," she declared. We laughed, and though Dolores's destruction could never be erased, that moment stitched something back together in us. The incident with the video even rippled beyond our home. Rosalie's teacher, Mrs. Chen, invited me in for a conference. She showed me how Rosalie's project had inspired other kids to document their feelings in journals. "She's turning her pain into a lesson for others," Mrs. Chen said, smiling. "That's rare for someone her age." Later, the local news ran a small feature about Rosalie's Kindness Club. We asked them to keep Dolores anonymous, but the story struck a chord. Neighbors began approaching me with their own stories of family bullies, often whispered with shame. "Your daughter gave me courage," one woman admitted at the grocery store. Craig and I, too, found our marriage shifting. Without Dolores constantly undermining us, we rediscovered each other. Arguments still happened, but they were balanced now, not silenced. One evening after Rosalie went to bed, Craig sat across from me at the kitchen table. "I almost lost you both because I was too scared of her," he said. "But Rosalie reminded me who I want to be." Tears blurred my vision. "We're still here," I whispered back. For the first time, I believed it fully. Yet Dolores lingered in the background of our thoughts. Every holiday felt incomplete without the looming fear of her presence. At Christmas, Rosalie carefully asked if Grandma might come. "Not this year," I said softly. She nodded, then added, "Maybe someday, if she says sorry." That was the difference between us. My daughter's heart stayed open to forgiveness, even when mine struggled to let go of the hurt. And though Dolores had tried to break us apart, her cruelty had given us something she never expected: unity. Rosalie's bravery had forced us to face truths we had long avoided. We were no longer the silent family that endured. We were the family that stood together. Life slowly settled into a new rhythm after Dolores's departure. The air in our home felt lighter, the kind of peace I hadn't realized we were missing until it was finally there. Rosalie thrived, her confidence blossoming, now that she no longer carried the burden of trying to please someone impossible to satisfy. She spent afternoons painting, reading aloud from books far above her grade level, and recording little projects that she proudly shared with us, this time about butterflies, planets, and acts of kindness. She no longer hid behind secrecy. Her tablet became a tool for creativity, not defense. Craig's transformation was just as remarkable. Therapy helped him untangle years of learned silence, and each week he seemed to grow taller, not physically, but in presence. He started coaching Rosalie's soccer team on weekends, something the old Craig would have avoided. When disagreements arose between us, instead of retreating, he engaged. Sometimes clumsily, sometimes imperfectly, but always with intention. One evening, he admitted I used to think standing up to Mom would destroy me. But staying quiet almost destroyed us. Rosalie saved me from myself. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. She saved us both. The neighborhood never forgot what happened with the unicorn cake. At grocery stores, coffee shops, even during school pickup, people quietly mentioned they'd heard the story. Instead of pity, what I heard most was admiration for Rosalie, for her courage, for her clarity at such a young age. A father at school drop-off once told me, "Your daughter made me realize I let my dad talk down to my kids too much." I put a stop to it. Rosalie had no idea how many ripples she created just by pressing play on her video. Yet the question of Dolores never fully disappeared. Holidays were particularly complicated. At Thanksgiving, as we set the table, Rosalie asked, "Do you think Grandma eats alone?" My heart tightened. "She probably has people around her," I said carefully. Rosalie nodded, then added, "I hope she finds kindness too." That was her way, always leaving the door cracked open for forgiveness, even when hurt still lingered. I envied her ability to hope. My forgiveness was slower, heavier, tangled in years of battles Dolores had waged against me. But I also knew my daughter's heart was teaching me something I hadn't yet learned. The day came when Rosalie's Kindness Club presented their work at a school assembly. Parents filled the auditorium as children shared stories of moments that mattered, helping a new kid find the right classroom, comforting a friend after a bad grade, standing up to someone being mean. Rosalie walked to the microphone, crownless this time, but shining with the same quiet confidence. "Kindness is stronger than cruelty," she told the crowd. "Sometimes it takes courage to be kind, and sometimes it takes courage to tell the truth when people don't want to hear it." Applause thundered through the room, and I realized this was her gift. Dolores had tried to crush her spirit, but instead, Rosalie had grown into a voice for others. Later that evening, Rosalie curled up beside me on the couch. "Mommy," she whispered, "was I wrong to show that video?" I brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "No, sweetheart. You showed the truth. And the truth may hurt, but it also heals. You were brave, and you taught all of us something important." She leaned her head against my shoulder, satisfied, her small hand finding mine. In that moment, I understood that while Dolores had left scars, she had also unintentionally given us something powerful, the chance to rise stronger together. Months later, a letter arrived in the mail. The handwriting was Dolores's, though shaky. I hesitated before opening it. Inside, only a single sentence. "Perhaps one day Rosalie will forgive me." No apology, no acknowledgement of what she had done. Just those words. I tucked the letter away. Rosalie never saw it. Maybe someday, if Dolores truly sought forgiveness, I'd let her decide. Until then, our lives moved forward without her shadow. When I think back to that birthday, to the cake in the trash, I no longer feel only rage. I see the moment my daughter chose courage over silence. I see the moment my husband finally found his voice. And I see how truth, even when painful, can set a family free. Dolores tried to break us apart, but instead, she gave us the chance to become whole. If you found this story moving, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need the reminder that standing up to family bullies is not just okay, it's necessary. Drop a comment below about a time you or someone you know found the courage to speak the truth. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about families' resilience and the power of small voices that change everything.